Hey everyone, in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a sparkle and then use that to create your own sparkle brush, and then I'll show you how to customize that brush to get different effects. So the first thing that we want to do is get our elliptical marquee tool, and I'm just going to make a shape something like this, and then I'll go ahead and get a blank layer, and I'm going to go to Edit, Fill, and fill that with black. I'm going to hit Control or Command T, and I think I'm actually just going to go ahead and bring it in a little more. And then I'm going to blur that with Gaussian blur. So Filter, Blur, Gaussian blur. I'm going to go to about 15 pixels and click OK. And then I'll just make a copy of this, and I think most of you can see where this is going. We're going to right click and flip this 90 degrees. Then I'm going to make a copy of this one, and I'm going to turn it diagonally and put it like so, and then another one. And then I'll go ahead and group these together, and I want to make them both a little smaller, but keep in mind you can make these however you like. So if you want long ones, short ones, you can add more. Totally up to you. So I'm going to do something like that. Then I'm going to get a blank layer, and I'll hit the X key to bring up the black, and with a soft round brush I'll make a little circle in the middle. Alright, so there is our sparkle. I'm going to go ahead and merge all of that together, and then you just want to go to Edit and Define Brush Preset and name it whatever you like. So here you can see we have our sparkle brush. I'm going to go ahead and get a new layer, and I'll just show you what that looks like. So we have a great sparkle, but right now it's not going to do much for us unless we literally just want a single sparkle, which sometimes you will. Maybe you have like a ring that you want to add a little sparkle to or something, then it'll work like this. But most of the time we're going to want to use these as like a scattering of sparkles. So what we'll do is go to our brush settings, and I'm going to go ahead and space this out. And I see I have something on the bottom of my brush here. I think it might have been a little bit of overspray. Let me brush this on really large so I can see. Yep, see that little tiny bit right there? I think maybe when I put the middle part here, I'm not sure. But if that happens to you, no big deal. I'll just get my lasso tool and delete it. Go ahead and make it a little larger. And then I'll just define that brush again. Alright, that's better. So now we can go into our brush settings, and I'll go ahead and space this out. And again, spacing is totally up to you. I'm just going for something in general right now, but when you're using this brush and you're working on an image, you may want little tiny sparkles really close together. You may just want a large scattering of sparkles around the whole image. So these settings are going to be totally dependent on the look that you're going for. And then under the shape dynamics, we're going to go ahead and bring this up. And then I'll go ahead and choose the flip X and Y. And then I'm going to go to the scattering. And I'll click both axes. So again, this is where you're going to decide in your particular image how much you want them spaced apart or not. So I like how these are right now, but I would like them to be a little more scattered. So if you want to use these as maybe like a trail coming up from a wand, then I wouldn't use too much of a scattering. But if you want more of just some general sparkles all over the place, then go ahead and bring that scattering up. And then your count is how many sparkles you're going to have. So you see, if I raise this up, we get a ton more sparkles. And don't mind me over here, I'm just keep adding new layers so I can start over. But as you can see, Let me bring this all the way up. And then you're gonna have a ton of sparkles. So if you want something really dense, like I would probably use this, like for example, I've done a few like princess type images where I made the dresses sparkle, and so if I want like some really dense sparkle around the hem of the dress, I'll use this. And then if I want a few just kind of falling down, then I'll raise the scatter. So again, it's just all about what you are using these sparkles for. I also like to turn on the transfer and just raise the opacity and flow jitter a little, because as you can see, it'll make them start fading out, some of them, so they're not all super bright sparkles. And when you're doing this, and which we will do this where you can actually see it as a bright sparkle in just a second, but when you're doing it like that, it makes it look a lot more realistic. All right, before I show you the next part, I'm gonna go ahead and raise my angle jitter. And then if you want them, so right now they're all kind of facing the camera, which doesn't really look that realistic in my opinion. So if you raise the roundness jitter, as you can see now, they really look like they're falling and they're all at different angles. And I just think that that looks a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off, and let's get a black layer. And that'll be the background so we can see what we're doing. And then I'll choose a solid color layer. And remember, when you're working with brushes, you don't always just have to use a color. You can use like overlays, so maybe a glitter. So imagine replacing this, which I'll just show you. What am I talking about? Let me just pull up a glitter really quick. All right, so this is a bit more of a dense glitter than what I was wanting to use, but this is all I have on my computer right now. So we're gonna use this. And so I'm just gonna invert it, and we'll grab our brush. Before I show you the glitter, let's just do a solid color layer. So if I brush this on, I'll turn to screen blend mode first. So you can see those look like some pretty good sparkles. But if we use something like a glitter, it just gives that bit more dimension and texture in there. So something like that, I think, just looks a little more realistic. Although these look awesome, like I said, those look great, but I think this just looks a little more realistic. So that was one thing I just want you to keep in mind when you're working with brushes, no matter what it is. If it's like fire that you're trying to brush in, or clouds or something, you can always use an actual image or an overlay to brush your work in, and you don't just have to use a solid color layer. But let's say, but I do, honestly, I still do use solid color layers a lot. I don't always go for the texture, but if it's kind of prominent in the image and I think it'll make a big difference, then I will. But even with these, we can do a little more to make them look more realistic. So a super easy way would be to just make a copy and then blur that out, and that'll give us a little bit of a glow. So you can see that little bit of a glow. I'm gonna maybe do like a little bit lighter of a color. All right. If I turn that off and on, you can see that glow. And then again, you can always change the blend modes depending on your image. Maybe color dodge will look better, or lighten blend mode, something like that. You can also clip gradients to these. This is something that I like to do as well. So if you want kind of multicolored sparkles, you can go ahead and get a blank layer and clip that down. Hold down the Alt Option key for that, and then go to your gradient tool. Choose whatever colors you like. Maybe I'll use like a rainbow type of effect. And then just go ahead and brush it on, and you can play around by clicking until you get kind of what you want. And then again, play around with your blend modes. And these will also depend on the color that's behind these. So whatever composite you're working on, these blend modes might look a little different. So just kind of scroll through like this and see which one looks the best for you. I think I'm just going to use color, and then I'll just lower the fill a little. Just a subtle little color in there. And there we have our sparkles. I'll go ahead and merge that and set it to screen. Now I showed you the way to make the glow by just making a copy and blurring it. That's that simple. But you can also go into your blend modes. These are all just little things that you can do in addition to the brushes that will help them to look more realistic. So these tips I'm giving you today, you can use with any of the brushes. Of course, you'll have to just adjust the settings, but the basic tools and methods that I'm showing you, you can use these to just push your brushwork a little further and making it look just that much more realistic. So for this one, maybe we'll do like a bit of outer glow. So I'll click on that and play around with the size and the spread. And maybe I'll just change the color. A little bit more of an orange tone. You can also add some inner glow into here if you like, but it will change the color. So if you're doing like I did with the different colors, it's not going to work as well, although it's still a cool effect. So if you like it better than your colors, then go ahead and use it. But if you're just using like one solid color, this will work a little better. You can choose to do it either on the center or the edge. And also sometimes I like to add noise when I'm working with sparkles because it just adds to that sparkle effect. Actually, let me go back to the outer glow and add a little bit of noise to that as well. I don't really want to keep that inner glow. I just wanted to show you guys, so I'm going to turn that off. You can also go to the gradient, but again, that's going to give you the same effect that we literally just did by clipping that gradient down. So it's up to you though. That could save you a step. If you just want to do it all in the blend mode, you could do that. You're really never going to need shadows on your sparkles, so you can skip all of that. But every now and then you may want a little bit of bevel and emboss if you're going for like a really specific type of a look. Like really that would be so rare. The only thing I can think of is a few months back I did a tutorial on combining AI and we made stars and we used a lot of these same effects, and I did use a bevel and emboss on that because I wanted them to look a little more like something real that you could hold or touch, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the settings that I would use in the layer styles. And some of you haven't made it yet to the tutorials where I talk about these little techniques to use in your brushwork. So hopefully that will help you guys in taking that brushwork to the next level. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and thanks for watching.